When the question has emerged to the global leadership, who should sit on the mimbar and who should not sit on the mimbar? Are people who have alternative views or deviant views, are they allowed to sit on the mimbar or not? The matter was referred to His Eminence. Whenever we have any question, for the past 20 plus years, we have knocked at the door of Najaf Ashraf. And we have got explicit guidance from His Eminence, Sayyid Sistani Hafizahullah. And when Sheikh Ali Dira, together with myself, we went to see His Eminence to ask this question, that what do we do with such speakers? Aga responded in a profound letter. And the second point I will only mention, he says, secondly, it is not right for the one who addresses the general public, the awam, to present to them specialist issues wherein the audience has no grasp of the prerequisite of the issue as per the required academic standards, even if the speaker is assumed to be qualified to engage in such discussions. And of course, if the speaker is not qualified, it makes it even worse. This is what Agha told us. And we stood by this principle and we remain there.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. My respected elders, my dearest youngsters, brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this segment, I want to dwell on the issue of the abuse and misuse of the fatwa of Sayyid Sistani by the Federation leadership as promised. So I will go straight to the transcript of the opening address at the conference that was recently held. It was delivered by the president of the World Federation, and he says, and I quote, "When the question had emerged to the global leadership, who should sit on the mimbar and who should not sit on the mimbar? Are people who have alternative views or deviant views, are they allowed to sit on the mimbar?" So this term itself, deviant and alternative views or deviant and alternative thinkers, is a highly subjective term, and it's being applied in a very skewed and lopsided manner, because often what they label as deviant and alternative views are actually very respectable positions that are held by erudite and massively well-credentialed maraji' and mujtahideen in the hawzat ilmiya themselves in Najaf and Qum. Beyond this, what they also have to keep in mind, and what you should keep in mind, is that Ayatullah Sheikh Abdullah al-Mamqani, in his 39-volume encyclopedia of Ilm al-Rijal entitled Tanqih al-Maqal fi Ilm al-Rijal, which we've been extensively quoting, he points out that أكثر ما يعد اليوم من ضروريات المذهب كان القول به معدودا في الغلو والارتفاع في العهد السابق. He says majority of what today's Shia believe about the attributes and characteristics of the Imams, the kind of supernatural perception you have of them, superhumans that you consider them to be. He says, yes, this kind of perception of the Imams and these kinds of beliefs that are very popular among mainstream Shias of today, he says if you go in the past, the vast majority of the Shias, including the Imams themselves, who are the Imams of the Shia, they used to consider this to be ghulu. They used to consider these beliefs to be examples of deviant exaggeration and heretical and blasphemous thinking, because the Imams were very firm on the idea that if Prophet in the Quran is basharun mithlukum, is a human being just like you, who has been honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the privilege that he receives wahi. But wahi is the only main distinguishing factor, that he receives wahi, whereas you don't receive wahi. But apart from wahi, in everything else, as far as human powers and human capacity and human limitations are concerned, he's a human being just like you. In his ilm, in his taqwa, in his spirituality and connection with Allah, of course, he's ahead of everyone in the ummah. But to say that he's superhuman, or that he has supernatural powers, or that he has divine sifat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has transferred some of his divine departments and offices to him. Yeah, this was regarded as ghulu. This was regarded as shirk, as ghulu, as deviation. So what these people are labeling today as deviant and alternative thinking was actually the mainstream orthodox correct thinking of the past. And what was the correct actual teaching of the Ahlul Bayt and the belief of their companions, they want to label today as deviant or alternative thinking. Just like how in Christianity, for example, this is what happens when ghulu takes over. Just look at your sister religion, Christianity. Today, if you go and tell Christians, you start preaching among the Christians, and you are a Christian yourself, and you say, Trinity is wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not one of a Trinity. There is no such thing as Trinity. There is only Qul huwallahu ahad. Allah is one. Isa alayhi salam, even in his statements preserved in the Bible, in the New Testament, he's preaching one God. He's not talking about three gods. If you start preaching this, the Christians will start calling you a deviant, an alternative thinker. Because ghulu has overtaken their religion to the point that now the original teachings of Isa alayhi salam appear to them to be unchristian or non-Christian or anti-Christian. So this is unfortunately, in many aspects, this is what has happened with Shi'ism as well, is that the original teachings of the Imams are today being viewed as deviant and alternative thinking. And today's mainstream aqidah, and about the Imams especially, and about their supernatural powers or their, divine imama as they call it, this in the past was all viewed as ghulu. So this is how the sect has evolved. The further you go back in history, as you start peeling through the layers, by the time you get to the classical scholars, already half of today's popular beliefs are out of the picture. They're only held by ghulat and mufawwida. And then when you go further back, you start realizing that even the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam, their beliefs and their understanding of themselves and their own role in the ummah was markedly different even from that of the classical scholars, because the classical scholars received transmissions that were mixed, that were corrupted by the ghulat as well. So in any case, first of all, the first objection to this is the use of this term and how skewed and subjective it is. What you are calling deviant and alternative thinking, has been admitted by your own top scholarship to be the actual correct belief of the past. And what was the correct belief of the past today is being labeled vice versa. In any case, he says the matter was referred to His Eminence whenever we have any questions. For the past 20 years, we've knocked at the door of Najaf Ashraf and we've got explicit guidance from His Eminence. Then he talks about how when they went to Sayyid Sistani and asked him what they should do with such speakers, Agha responded in a profound letter. And the second point I will only mention, and then he quotes Sayyid Sistani. Sayyid Sistani is recorded as saying, secondly, it is not right for the one who addresses the general public, the awam, wherein the audience has no grasp of the prerequisite of the issue as per the required academic standards, even if the speaker is assumed to be qualified to engage in such discussions. And then Pramukh Sahib adds from his own side, he says, and of course, if the speaker is not qualified, it makes it even worse. This is what Agha told us. And we stood by this principle and we remain there. So the main point in this is that Agha has said that it is not right for the one who addresses the general public, the awam, that he should present to them specialist issues, wherein the audience has no grasp of the prerequisite of the issue. Now, if they want to apply this against Al-Islah or against us, then this is abuse of this fatwa, because aslan, our core da'wah, the main issue on which we've been trying to give da'wah, is obviously against ghulu, but specifically the practice of giving the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And even more specifically, supplicating to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, doing dua to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. So our core mission and message is one of Tawheed. And as far as the question of Tawheed is concerned, you can't really classify it as a specialist issue, because we're talking very basic Tawheed, and the kind of Tawheed that we are talking about and that we are discussing and that we are trying to raise awareness about, this is the kind of Tawheed that prophets in the Quran were presenting to the lay public, to the awam. So this application of this fatwa is very easy to refute as far as we are concerned, because we're not presenting specialist Tawheed to the people. Aslan Tawheed, there is nothing specialist about it. There is nothing specialized about it. Tawheed is among the bayinat of the Quran. It is among the clearest and simplest teachings of the Quran. And the kind of Tawheed that we want to promote and give da'wah towards and invite our people to return to after they have been caused or they have been influenced to deviate away from it under the influence of ghulu. The kind of Tawheed that we want to call and invite people towards is Tawheed that, according to the Quran itself, is suitable for presenting to the masses. And we can prove this from the Quran itself. If you look at Surah Yusuf, this is the study Quran we are using here, because many of our viewership, they like to use this edition, the study Quran, which is a new translation and commentary. It's very popular among many of the learned and educated people. So if you go to this tafsir, or rather this commentary, on page 1096 of the scanned version that we have here. You can see that Yusuf alayhi salam in Surah Yusuf, verse 36, there are two young men who entered the prison with him. Okay, and then they narrated their dream. Now, who are these two men? These two men, according to most commentaries, state that the two young men who were in prison with Joseph were servants of the king of Egypt. One of them was his baker. Okay, one of them was his baker and the other his wine carrier. So these two men, a wine carrier and a baker, you wouldn't exactly call these two people specialist mujtahideen or degree holders in religion, right? And yet you see Yusuf alayhi salam, as soon as he has the opportunity, he says, no food with which you are provided will come unto you until, save that I shall inform you of its interpretation before it comes. This is among the things my Lord has taught me. I forsake. So you see, he's already starting to give da'wah to them. And he's doing tabligh. And he's saying, I forsake the creed of a people who believe not in God and they are disbelievers in the hereafter. And I follow the creed of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. It is not for us to ascribe any partners unto God. That is from the bounty God has bestowed upon us and upon mankind. But most of mankind do not give thanks. So don't you see how he's talking about it is not for us to ascribe any partners unto God? And then later on he says, O my fellow prisoners, أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَارُ? Are diverse lords better, having multiple lords and sustainers? Is that better, or having one sustainer, one God, one Allah who has absolute sway over all of creation, over all of existence, the one, the paramount? Then he says, you worship apart from him not but names that you have named and invented, you and your fathers, for which God has sent down no authority. Judgment belongs to God alone. He commands that you worship none but him. That is the upright religion, but most of mankind know not. So you can see from here that Yusuf alayhi salam is presenting this tawheed, this idea that you are not supposed to accept multiple sustainers in your life, which is unfortunately what our community is doing. When they're asking for rizq, when they're asking for offspring, when they're asking for different hajat from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, they are unknowingly or knowingly attributing and ascribing rububiyyah, sustainership and lordship to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt against their teachings. And so we want to say, we want to promote the teaching of Yusuf alayhi salam, which is no. أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَارُ? This is a rhetorical question. Is having multiple lords or sustainers better? Yani the way you have today and the way it has become popular in the Shia community today, that one day you're asking Hazrat Abbas for rizq to sustain you, one day you're asking Imam Ali alayhi salam to give you rizq, the other day you're asking the 12th Imam, another day Imam al-Rida, the 8th Imam. So having diverse lords and sustainers, this is better, or having one Allah who is al-Wahid al-Qahar? He is the one and only. He is the one who has complete and absolute sway over the entire creation and all of existence. Is it better to ask from one Allah alone, or is it better to ask from multiple entities who across the curtain of ghaib, who have no power to listen to us in the first place. And even if they could listen, as the Quran says, even if they could listen, mastajabu lakum, they would not be able to respond to you. So this is the Tawheed that we want to present to our masses and to our awam. And this kind of Tawheed, as you can see from the Quran, is so simple and so basic that Yusuf alayhi salam presented it to the baker, as you can see, and the other guy was wine carrier. Can you imagine? The one who used to serve wine to the king of Egypt. So these are not exactly khawas, these are awam. These are as lay people can get. And yet, Tawheed is something that should be presented to everyone, because this is what will save you from enslaving yourself and humiliating yourself by enslaving yourself to other sustainers or lords other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see I have the text translation and commentary by Abdullah Yusuf Ali as well. I have brought it here because this is also very easily accessible. Those of you who don't have the study Quran, then you can refer to Abdullah Yusuf Ali's translation and commentary of the Quran, because this is one that usually everyone has at home. So you can go to the tafsir of verse 37 of Surah Yusuf, and you will see that in the footnotes he has mentioned, because this is what the Mufassirin are agreed on, is that two men came to the prison about the same time as Joseph. They were both apparently officers of the king and had incurred his wrath. One was a cupbearer or butler or chief steward, whose duty was to prepare the king's wines and drinks. The other was the king's baker, whose duty was to prepare the king's bread. So now you tell me, do these look like mujtahideen and maraja and PhD holders to you, or are they lay people? Of course, you will agree with me that they're lay people, and yet Yusuf alayhi salam does not use this plea that, oh, Tawheed is so complicated, and we cannot present it to the public, and we cannot warn the public against the shirk of doing dua to ghayrullah, because this is a specialist issue and the audience has no grasp of the prerequisite of the issue. Baba, you don't need any prerequisites. All you need is the Quran. As translation of Abdullah Yusuf Ali is there. You can check any other translation and commentary. It will tell you the same thing. It will show you that Yusuf alayhi salam was preaching Tawheed of the Quran, Tawheed as was taught by Ibrahim alayhi salam, by Nuh alayhi salam, by all these great prophets of God. He was preaching it to the wine carrier, the cupbearer, and the baker. That's the kind of grassroots level that Tawheed is suitable for presenting to. And you can present it even to the baker and the wine carrier who are not even Muslim to begin with. So these people, they expect us to believe that Ayatullah Sistani would want us not to present this Tawheed, which Yusuf alayhi salam is presenting to the non-Muslim polytheistic baker and wine carrier. These people want to deprive us of the opportunity to present this Tawheed to our Muslim and mu'min believing community members. Wallah, you tell me, is that zulm or not? Wallahi, it is zulm. And then they say, of course, if the speaker is not qualified, it makes it even worse. And blah, blah. There's no need for qualification here. This is bayinat of the Quran. Okay, you don't even need to know Arabic. If you just know translation of the Quran, you are fit to present this Tawheed to the masses, to tell them that, look, don't have multiple sustainers. If in your life you are turning to entities other than Allah across ghaib for your sustenance, whether it be your daily bread, or whether it be your offspring, or whether it be your next promotion or job, or whatever hajat you have, cure for a certain disease or illness that you're suffering from, protection during your travels, whatever kind of sustenance, if you are turning to a sustainer, an imagined sustainer other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is wrong. This is against the Tawheed of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It's against the Tawheed of Muhammad and Al Muhammad salawatullahi alayhim ajma'een. This is the simple message that Al-Islaah has been trying to present to the awam through this platform, that we have been trying to present through this platform. So the fatwa of Sayyid Sistani absolutely cannot be employed against Al-Islaah or any of those associated with it, because aslan, our core da'wah and our core message is one of Tawheed, and coming back to Tawheed in light of the Quran and the authentic teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdalus salati wassalam. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.